What makes me optimistic, Victor, is particularly in my current role, all the conversations that I have with people in the community. Every day it's a different conversation, but it's always inspiring to me to hear from people about what it is that they're striving for, and for me to get an understanding of what I can do to help address some of the challenges. But everyone in the community wants to live well, and we just need to look at what the system is doing to enable that to occur, and where it could be getting in the way, to help people achieve the dreams and the goals that they've got in their lives.
Hi, it's Victor Perton here, and it's the Optimism Cafe, and I am absolutely honoured to have Jane Anderson, the Latrobe Health Advocate. Latrobe is the Latrobe Valley, which is this incredibly beautiful but challenging part of the state of Victoria in Australia. Jane Anderson, welcome.
Thanks, Victor. Great to be talking with you.
Well, always at the Centre for Optimism, the first question we ask is, what makes you optimistic? Jane Anderson, what makes you optimistic?
What makes me optimistic, Victor, is particularly in my current role, all the conversations that I have with people in the community. Every day it's a different conversation, but it's always inspiring to me to hear from people about what it is that they're striving for, and for me to get an understanding of what I can do to help address some of the challenges. But everyone in the community wants to live well, and we just need to look at what the system is doing to enable that to occur, and where it could be getting in the way, to help people achieve the dreams and the goals that they've got in their lives.
Oh, that is inspiring. Jane, Latrobe Health Advocate. What is it? It's a most unusual title.
Yes, well, it's a role that there's only one of advocate role in Australia. It was a recommendation from the Hazelwood mine fire inquiry. So what we knew through the Hazelwood mine fire is it had a terrible impact on people in the community, and I was working in Latrobe at the time, so I felt that impact as well. And the community didn't feel as though they were being heard at that time. They didn't trust the advice that was being provided to them. And one of the recommendations from the inquiry was to have a Latrobe Health Advocate role, which was to be an independent voice and a champion for the voice of the community. So the role was established from the mine fire recommendations. And what I do is I provide independent advice to the government on what the community is looking for to improve their health and wellbeing, and I support systems changes to enable the people to achieve what it is that they're looking for in their lives.
And so what's the infrastructure around you? I know that you spend a lot of your time just listening to people, which is a wonderful skill. So what's the infrastructure around you? Who supports you, and how is your work achieved?
So I work within the Latrobe Health Innovation Zone. So there's a number of different elements within the zone, including the Latrobe Health Assembly. So I work with the members of the Health Assembly and the agencies that are part of the Health Assembly. In my office, we're a small team. So I'm very fortunate to have some terrific people that are enabling me to do the work that I'm doing. And so Al is the senior advisor in my team, and Kylie is the office coordinator. We're a small team, but we aim to achieve big things.
Your passion is enough. So I look at your career. You've been a policewoman, a lawyer. You headed up Anglicare, which is the Anglican welfare agency. For those of you in America, it's the Anglican Church in Australia. And now you're the health advocate. So what is it, a policeman's a tough job, a lawyer's, often a tough job. What is it that maintains your optimism?
So for me, it's achieving challenges. So I've always enjoyed working with people in the community. I always described working in the police as a community role, and some people were challenged by that and didn't see that in the same way. But For me, it was always about connection to the community. I do enjoy a good argument, so that's been part of being a lawyer as well. So I'm happy to put a point of view forward and try and persuade others to at least understand where I'm coming from. But it is about taking on challenges, but also looking to achieve equity in the community. So I'm a big believer in social justice. It's really important for me that everyone has an opportunity to contribute, and I believe that everyone does want to contribute. We just need to make sure we've got the right platforms there so they can contribute as they're wanting to.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I just did an interview on American podcast and talked about that being that different quality of Australian leadership, that belief in egalitarianism, that everyone has a say, that everyone has a value, no matter where you are. Now, we recently did an event together at the Latrobe Health Assembly, and we got everyone in the group to share what makes them optimistic. What's your perception in the Latrobe Valley? Is it an optimistic community, or is there a bit of a fog of pessimism, rising from the economic changes that have occurred there over the last 20 to 30 years?
I actually think it's very much an optimistic community. It's a community that's been through a lot of transition and is still going through transition. So with the changes to the reliance on coal for energy, changes before that from having a significant public employer in the SEC, and then, of course, impacts of fires and other events. We've been through a lot in Latrobe Valley, but the community is incredibly resilient and its voice is just getting stronger and stronger. It was actually through the community voice that the mine fire inquiries were established. So the community is wanting to have a say, and that's because it wants to contribute to what the better future is. So to me, that's a basis of optimism about wanting to contribute. And it's seeing that its voice is having influence. So that means it's getting louder and louder in its voice, which is terrific to see. And often when I'm hearing and talking with people in the community, they talk about their desire for Latrobe Valley to be seen as a wonderful place that it is to live in and work and study whatever way people are involved in Latrobe Valley. So I would say it's an incredibly optimistic and resilient community.
So we've had lockdowns here in Victoria with COVID and the like. And as you know, at the Centre for Optimism, we've done a study of 3,000 people sharing their better normal, what they've learnt about themselves, what they want to change. And I think it's going to be a challenge for anyone who runs an office building. My favourite quote from an anonymous person was, they loved working near their partner, they loved being able to go into the garden, they loved making lunch from the fridge, but most important, they loved setting their own temperature control. That eternal debate between men in jackets and ladies in dresses. What have you seen around, how people have come through COVID? And maybe you can even share, your own experience. What has changed in you as a result of the COVID experience?
I think naturally, every person has been impacted in a different way. So they've all got their different experiences. And, one of the challenges is that some people have been more impacted than others, and particularly those who haven't been able to access digital connectivity. That's been a challenge. On the flip side, I've actually had people proactively writing to me about the positive experiences that they've had through COVID-19. So they've talked to me about the lists that they've had that they've never been able to get to, and they've been able to get to those lists. So, dealing with the fernery and dealing with photo albums and the jobs that are on the list that have never been achieved. So people welcome doing that. They've also talked about having the time to spend in their garden, reflecting on their lifestyle, having a better balance of life. So we know, again, it's been challenging for some around how you can have it's a school, it's a workplace, and your ordinary family home is doing lots of different things. But a number of people have commented to me that it has been time to pause and reflect and achieve a better balance. For me, it's I, in the past, struggled working from home, and I was always one that kind of preferred to be in the office. But when I can, I've actually enjoyed working from home. I have one of the unfortunate experiences of living in a black spot. So I don't always have good connectivity, which that can be a benefit in itself at times when I can tune off. But I've enjoyed working from home and then being able to just go for a walk around my garden when I want to. Yeah, I can wear whatever clothes I want to wear, and I can control my own climate. I can have a cuppa and do things when I want to. I can talk to my partner, and I've got my dogs there with me. So it's very enjoyable for me being in my home and using my travelling time in a different way as well. So that's given me, most time I've applied that to work, but it means I'm not spending longer times in the office. I can spend that time at home. So it's certainly been mixed, but yeah, lots of opportunity for learning and lots of great innovations that have occurred that we want to continue occurring into the future.
I think people say dogs have never been happier. They've never had more walks and attention, and everyone's cat has been cuddled a lot more. At Centre for Optimism, we obviously our bias is towards optimism and the study of optimism. And as you know, Harvard, Boston University, and the American military produced a report last year that said that the key attribute indicating a healthy longevity is not geography, it's not genetics, it's not wealth, it's the trait of optimism. And the Mount Sinai Medical System and the American College of Cardiology, in the heart space, the greatest indicator that you won't suffer from a heart attack is optimism. The greatest indicator your recovery from a heart attack is optimism. And then more recently, the Vienna Medical School has talked about optimists having 1/7 the level of sleep disorder, and that sleep is a powerful tool for optimism. Now, the conclusion from Harvard is that it's now a public health issue. That in countries like America and Australia, we've got so many people on anti-anxiety drugs, antidepressant drugs that actually don't work for most people, that fostering optimism is a public health issue. What do you reckon? What's in your experience, is that something that health authorities, doctors and the like, and psychologists need to pay more attention to? And by other way of introduction, we did an event yesterday with Phoenix, Australia, the post-traumatic injury people. And again, they have the same view. There needs to be a lot more research into the effective ways of delivering more optimistic thinking to the community, because you switch on the radio or switch on the news, you are inundated with everything that's wrong with society rather than the things that lift you.
Yeah, and we know we've seen cases where people, their positive mindset has certainly affected their ability to recover from different experiences, different health issues that they've got. I think the health system, along with having a person-centred approach, does need to look more at what the person's experiencing and look to see what it is that is positive in their life. And I probably look towards it in the way of people's aspirations. I think at times our society actually can dampen people's aspirations. Society can put expectations on people which actually holds them down rather than lifting them up to what it is that they want to achieve. So that's where I think we need to be more aware of people's goals and supporting them to achieve their goals, which is about being optimistic. I've recently been hearing from young people, and a number of them have been expressing the pressure that they're feeling, the sense of expectation that they have on themselves. And one person actually said to me, you get recognised for getting honours, but you don't get recognised for setting a good routine to achieve goals. So I think it is what we need to do to focus more on what people's goals are and what are the steps to achieve those goals, and having that individual consideration as opposed to just a broad approach to everyone.
Now that's absolutely brilliant. In fact, that was one of the conclusions of being in Australia, that people have never had so much pressure placed on them. And yes, celebrating their achievements. And one of the things I think is, in Australia, this is just my sort of musing, we've now raised critical analysis to almost biblical writ. It's almost more important to be a critical thinker than a positive thinker. And I think, the appreciative inquiry method, which you use, Jane, You always say and rather than but.
Mm.
Is something we certainly need to foster, and for young people as well. Jane Anderson, this has been fantastic. I can see why you've been appointed as the advocate. You've got a natural infectiousness, a realistic and infectiously optimistic leadership. What's the best way that those watching and listening can help you in your work?
Well, the best way that people can help me in my work is to tell me about their experiences so I can identify what we need to change within the system. So the more people approach me and talk to me about their experiences, so then I can identify what the system issues are. That's what I'm looking for. The other thing that I'm looking for is from those within the system, so whether it's services or government departments or businesses, for them to be open in their thinking and to be able to be responsive to what the experience of people in the communities. That's the other thing that I'm looking for reflection.
That's fantastic. Jane Anderson, thank you for your time, and I hope you will join us again in the Optimism Cafe, maybe in 6 months or 12 months, just to keep us up to date with the wonderful work you're doing.
Love to be part of the conversation. Thanks, Victor.
Thanks, Jane.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode of the Optimism Cafe. We'd love you to support Jane and her fabulous work, and we'd love you to get involved with the Centre for Optimism too. You can go to our website at centreforoptimism.com. There's huge amounts of materials to support your optimism and foster optimism for those around you. And there's a free subscription or membership available too, and we'd love to have you involved in the long term to support you and to support your community. Have a great day.